Have you ever used a map? Do you even know what a map is? You know, before GPS, we had to use a map to get from one point to the other if you didn't know where those places were. Each time I've moved to a new town or a new city, I've been very easily lost, not knowing the names of familiar streets or not knowing if I needed to go north or south. Luckily, when I moved to Wilmington, GPS was there for me every single turn. But when I moved to college, I would not have been able to get back to my dorm every time I left for months without my map. You know, maps help us figure out how to go from place to place. And so, would you be able to go somewhere if you had a map? Could you get to your house using a map? Could you get to Raleigh using a map? How about could you get to California using a map? Could you get to God using a map? Our scripture for today tells us that there is a map that can help us figure out what God looks like and what God does, the things that God is about. Kind of like a map. It helps us get from one place to another. That map is Jesus. Our scripture today comes from John chapter 14. And one verse I hope you'll recognize is one of our seekers verses. It says, "I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." So Jesus says He is the way. He's the path that we need to take to get to God. Kind of like a map. It shows us the way to get there. So as we look at who Jesus is and the example that Jesus set, we have an example for our own lives of how we should be able to follow after God. The first thing that Jesus says is Jesus always took time to be with God. Jesus spent time praying and talking to God, reading scripture. He learned to abide in God. The second thing, Jesus completely trusted God. Jesus knew that no matter what, God had the very best for him in mind, even if that meant that Jesus had to face really hard things, even death. Jesus trusted that God knew what was best. Finally, Jesus showed love to others. Think about the things he did in his life. From healing people to taking care of people's individualized needs to walking alongside them in whatever they were facing. Jesus cared for others. You know, we can look at Jesus as our way to find our way toward God. We know that Jesus gives us the map that shows us this is how we follow. And so I thought I'd have a fun, socially distancing appropriate map following journey for you. I'm going to be posting below this video a treasure map for you. And I hope that this week you and your family will go and try to follow that treasure map to find a little surprise and remember that Jesus points us always to God.